think a lot bigger. It's amazing how you think you're thinking big until you really get in and get challenged to think even bigger. You can do a lot more. I never had a goal to say I want to be president of a real estate development company. That was never a lot of financial goals, but nothing that said I was going to run an organization or be able to create an organization.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Rick Tollakson here on the show. Rick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
I'm excited for you to be here. It's going to be a great conversation today. See, for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Rick Tollakson. I'm the CEO of Hubbell Realty Company. I live in West Des Moines right now, but I've kind of lived all over the metro area here.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a couple, very large communities. The first one was Palmer, Iowa. Okay, known for their basketball team, but the basketball team came after I was there. And then my dad worked for the Rock Island Railroad. We moved from Palmer to Hampton, Iowa. And of course, that was the big city because Hampton, they had a Ben Franklin store. So that was, and a swimming pool. So that was quite the deal.
All the amenities, one, everything a child needs, right?
That is true. That is true.
Graduated from Hampton High School?
Hampton High School, went to Iowa State University, got a degree in construction engineering, went to the University of Iowa while I was working. And back before they had all these great MBA programs, I drove from Cedar Rapids down to Iowa City 4 nights a week. And it took 6 years. Right now, it would take roughly a little over a year to do what they made me do in 6. It was worth it.
What'd you study there at Iowa?
I got an MBA.
And then were you working at the time, or was it full time there?
No, I was working at the time. So I graduated from Iowa State in 1976, got a job with a firm called Youngblood Construction out of another great metropolitan area called Washburn, Iowa, which is a suburb of Waterloo. Okay. And I worked for them for about a year and a half and then went to a firm called Hubbell Company in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I did industrial projects for General Mills and W.R. Cryovac and Rockwell Goss. In fact, my last project with Hubbell was I built the corn processing plant for Cargill in Eddyville, Iowa.
What was your role at the firm there?
I was a project manager.
Okay.
And I enjoyed being an industrial project manager, but you wanted to do something different. At the time, Hubbell was looking for somebody to build the Hub Tower, 20-story office tower, and the Kaleidoscope at the Hub, which is a 2-block long. I think we had 6 to 8 skywalks going into it. And I thought that was something that was more interesting. So I thought I would come to Des Moines, Iowa, work for Hubbell Realty Company, build their skyscraper, and go on and keep building skyscrapers around the country. That was probably my goal at the time.
That was the dream. What year was that?
That was started with Hubbell in 1984.
I mean, that was a heck of a project. That was really a downtown to go. That is something to be proud of.
Yeah, there was a lot of downtown transformation at the time. You remember the Capitol Square, the Plaza, a couple of other big projects going on right before the Hub Tower, and it was just a lot of activity downtown.
What eventually? I mean, it sounds like you graduated from Iowa, get your MBA, and the Hub Tower drew you in. Something bigger, better, right, outside of industrial. Industrial, I suspect, back at the time was probably that ugly duckling of an asset class that the times have changed probably in comparison to the 70s.
Yes. I mean, the firm I worked for in Cedar Rapids, Hubbell Company, which later was purchased by the Whites Company well after I left. We did ADM corn sweeteners was a big contract of ours. We just did Hubbell Company manufactured cranes. And so because of that, that's how they got into industrial design build. I did an industrial design build, just did a whole bunch of projects for manufacturers in the Cedar Rapids area. And as I said, my last one was doing a corn processing financing plan for Cargill. We had done a lot of work for Cargill in Cedar Rapids as well.
You do the hub tower. What did you learn in comparison? What did you learn going through that process of doing the hub tower in comparison to the background you'd come from?
Big difference is, you're doing the hub tower. You had an architect, a major architect that's drawing plans. Architects were somebody that we had the structural engineer hire to make our structure look a little prettier. Because as you pointed out, they're not the greatest looking buildings in the world. Hub tower and the hub with the retail center had to have a whole different feel to it. So I had to learn to work with architects, as well as, I was an owner rep, really, not a general contractor, which is what I was before. So I had to work with general contractors. Just the White's company was our contractor on that project, and it was a fun build, and a major project.
You get bit by the Hubbell bug at the time, or did you end up going down that dream path of building skyscrapers across the country?
Really what happened is Hubbell kept giving me opportunities, and I probably pushed. I'm kind of known for being kind of a pusher personality, pushed into a variety of things. So I moved very quickly into development and construction, and just started working. There was a financial analyst, young guy, and him and I would sit down, and I'd work the construction numbers, and he'd work the pro formas, and that was back when Lotus had a 1, 2, 3 was your program. Excel hadn't even been really created or talked about yet. I didn't know how to do any of that anyway. He knew how to do it. Sure. We did pro formas and started doing projects.
Did you dream up the projects for what to do, or was Hubbell the one presenting these two at that time?
At the time, the two of us would probably start dreaming it up. We'd look at what other people were doing in the marketplace and saying, hey, we have some property in downtown Des Moines. We could do the same thing. But, if you would drive, it used to be called Factory Edition down south of town. Now it's called River Point. And, we did a Federal Express built to order. We did a project we call 920 Morgan, a project, Fifth Street Office Park. We did a whole bunch of projects down there. Actually, we were looking at what R&R did at Aurora Business Park and said, you know what, we can do this downtown. So, we hired architects and started going and put the numbers together. And, I just filled out the construction side of it. And that worked for about a year or so. And then my financial analyst left. Okay. Yeah. So all of a sudden I said, well, I guess I better learn Excel. That showed up. So I'm learning Excel and I'm learning pro formas, and I'm doing the pro formas. And I'll just say, when you're in charge of the construction and the pro formas, you can make things sizzle pretty fast.
You make it look on the sheets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can figure out how to make a lot of projects. And we started doing a lot of projects, and we started growing a little bit.
At the time, what verticals was Hubbell participating?
As far as
lines of business.
So, we were still pretty small. We were a brokerage operation, Hubbell Realty Company. We had a property management division, obviously our hub tower being our largest, but we had Cap Center 1, 2, and 3. We had a number of office buildings, and we owned, Hubbell owned a lot of properties downtown in our River Point portfolio. So we had a good sized property management division. And then, I was development and construction, pretty much I was a one-man show, started hiring a couple of people to add to me.
And that was primarily through the 80s and then even into the 90s?
Into the 90s. And beginning of the 90s, Hubbell Realty Company back then purchased First Really Better Homes and Gardens. If you remember that franchise, which is now Berkshire Hathaway. And Jim Hubbell came to me and said, one thing you need to do if you're a residential brokerage operation is you really need to be a land developer. I said, well, good for us. I'm a commercial guy. He says, well, no, you got to develop lots. Well, I built buildings. You can figure it out, can't you? Well, guy with my personality. So of course I can do it. I can do about anything. And we went to, there's a project in Altoona called Venbury, right behind the Hy-Vee store on 8th Street. And a guy, a Western exec named Virgil E. Nutt owned the property in Venbury, being VEN, and kind of he named it after himself. And we went in there and we developed that, and we found 4 builders to build spec homes, and they listed their homes with First Really Better Homes and Gardens. But if you remember that time, Iowa Realty was Iowa's largest, and they were huge.
Okay. Enormous. 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, they were inland development. They owned Midland Homes, the state's largest home builder. They were in everything, and they were a tough competitor.
Well, how did you compete? So you got to do something different somehow.
Yeah, we just started out with the 4 builders. And, back then, as I tell people, when you sold a lot, you didn't sell a lot. A builder came to you and wanted to build a home, and you basically subordinated the lot to their lender, and you're taking really all the risk. We ended up forming a little side company, 6 of us. Jim Hubbell said he wasn't really interested in joining us, but, we're young. We had good jobs. We had no money, and we guaranteed construction loans for about a dozen different home builders. Okay. So on top of doing all the commercial development, I was doing the land development, and then I was doing financial stuff with these home builders, negotiating with them to build spec homes in our developments. And we did really well. Sure. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work for one guy to be doing all that stuff. And I went to Hubbell and said, maybe Hubbell ought to create Hubbell Homes. Okay. And so we hired a couple of the builders that we had partnered with, and we started Hubbell Homes in 1998. I
was always curious about the backstory about how that came to be.
Yeah. And I'm not a home builder. Okay. I'm an engineer. I know how to build homes, but I didn't my life dream, remember, was to build high rises, not to build a home building company. But that's how we got into that.
Yeah.
So got in it with land development. From land development, got into home building.
Just to fill an absolutely necessary need that was taking place there.
You realize that, if you aren't the home builder, and Iowa Realty probably realized it first with Midland Homes, okay, you need to control your destiny a little bit. You got to be able to keep the pace.
Taking back to competing against Iowa Realty, were the builders you're selling to at that time, did they also buy lots from Iowa Realty? Was it such a contentious environment that you were either with or against?
I would say most of them probably were not Iowa Realty builders. They were they were First Realty builders before. That's who they listed with. Builders kind of went with the agent. If the agent was an Iowa Realty builder, they probably would have went with Iowa Realty if they were First Realty builders. Remember, First Realty, was not a small operation. They had 250 agents back then. Compared to the 400 or 500 that Iowa Realty had, they were still extremely dominant.
Hey, Iowa investors, this is Ava Bautkamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit legacyimpactinvestors.com to apply.
Let's talk about that. I'm curious about that line of business. How have you seen that change? Because it looks like the landscape has changed dramatically over the years.
And I really had a lot to do about changing it. Okay. Yeah. You think about their operation. I think they got bought by Emeritus and Mid-American Energy and with Warren Buffett, and return on equity. They decided to get out of the land development business. Okay. They got out of the home building business. They sold it to Mike Myers. Right. Okay. And if you knew Mike back then, and I knew Mike pretty well, his goal in life was to maybe build 150 homes, and he would have been just happy. And he ended up buying Midland Home, building 700 to 900 homes a year. Okay. That really wasn't his dream either. It's just how things happen. So for us, that competitive landscape changed dramatically. Still a very realtor dominated market, still is today.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean by that?
Realtors, we're in Omaha, and we build homes in Omaha. That's just, okay, not as concentrated as it is here in Des Moines. What you see in Des Moines is a huge amount of spec inventory created by builders. That's because it's a very realtor-dominated market. Realtors like to have product to sell. It's much tougher to sell built orders and sell dreams. It's much easier to say, okay, I've got, 5 houses, 6 houses.
Well, that's how humans are built. I want it, and I want it now.
I want it now, right.
Yeah, that creates some interesting and some unique challenges. I mean, a lot of inventory goes on the books. It's capital intensive.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that a little bit. We've seen inflation creep in a large way over the last, post-COVID. How do you see that? What's taking place today in terms of inventory, in terms of the cost of construction, and then a little prediction with the crystal ball? I mean, where do you see this play out over the course of time?
Well, what I've noticed is, spec inventory numbers are as high as ever. Okay. We had a little builder, you might have heard of them before, called D.R. Horton, move into our marketplace. You got the country's largest home builder, and they come in and they built probably as many spec homes as Regency was building in their heyday, which is, 400 spec homes at any one time. We probably keep our number. I mean, when we started, Hubbell Homes, we were maybe our first year did 75 homes. We do anywhere from 250 to 300 homes a year. And there's a number of smaller builders in the marketplace that continue to build a large number of spec homes.
How do you compete against DR? Meaning, how do you become distinctly different? DR is, I remember when they came in, through an acquisition, and everybody was like, I might be done. A lot of the builders stuck to DR pays cash for everything. They don't carry debt. Right. No. And so they've got substantial staying power.
They do.
And that is really unique in an industry where, debt is the choice of instrument in terms of getting these things done.
So what you have to do is you have to look at how you can differentiate yourself. Sure. You're not going to be able to really compete with D.R. Horton on price because, right. They have an algorithm that if I lower my price, they're going to lower their price. Okay. Sounds like a tariff discussion, doesn't it? But so you compete with them on what you put in your home, quality, reputation, that sort of thing. And you just differentiate yourself. Now, we're a large land developer, so we still control a lot of locations. Okay. We don't generally sell too many homes until maybe it's the end or something like that to D.R. Horton. Yeah. They have other land developers they work with. Sure. We don't do a lot with them. So that gives us another piece of differentiation.
Okay. So that's, kind of circling back. 1998, that's the birth of Hubbell Homes.
Right.
How we got there. What else was taking place through that late 90s into the 2000s on the rest of Hubbell and in your world in terms of what else you were working on?
So for the most part, we were into home building, land development, and we were into commercial development. Probably in that early 90s, we did Lakeview Medical Park, which is Unity Point's medical office building that we own at 60th. Then, I had one of those great discussions with Jim Hubbell. I've been at Hubbell 20 years, 50 years old, and mentioned to Jim one day that, by the way, like a lot of boomers, I'm going to retire at 55. I'm set. I got it figured out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just do something different. And Jim Hubbell looked at me and says, well, then we got a major problem because I'm going to retire at 55 and not you. I says, well, you already are 55. You're quick. So I didn't really think that. He's only 5 years older. His name's on the door. So he said, maybe a little earlier than I truly planned, but I can't have you leaving. I need you to take over. So in 2004, I took over as CEO of the company. We probably had around 70 associates at the time. We have somewhere around 750 associates today.
It's incredible. You haven't aged a day. I mean, you still are 54. We'll never turn 55.
I'll never turn 55. So when people talk about all your goals and says, I was going to retire at 55, and, I've told everybody that next year, this is my last year. I'll be 72 this fall. So I really screwed that goal up. And I didn't miss it by like a couple of years. I missed it by nearly 2 decades.
2004, you get handed the reins. What do you do?
Okay. We're going, firing on all cylinders, and we're feeling pretty good about things. In 2007, we decided to really do a pivot, and we had been very heavily into office, retail, and flex office, and decided I just didn't like those businesses as much, even though I developed most of it, and really wanted to get into multifamily and focus on multifamily and industrial. And in hindsight, you would say I'm a genius because those were the two hot sectors that happened. Unfortunately, in our marketplace, it doesn't take long for all your competition to say, well, he's right on the money there. So my competition all did basically the same thing. Right. So we went in 2008, as I tell people. In 2007, we had our best year in corporate history at the time. In 2008, we had our worst year in corporate history. The recession hit us pretty hard, but we had an unbelievable number of opportunities because of what was going on in the marketplace. Because we're a well-capitalized, stable company, we took over a lot of foreclosure properties, primarily in the townhome arena, which grew our townhome side of the company.
Townhome side, for sale product or for rent product?
For sale product, primarily. In 2007, we bought the Clark portfolio from Lloyd Clark. So we went from having no knowledge of really the multifamily business, to having 1,700 units located in 2 states, because he was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Sure. And then he was here. He got into Sioux Falls because he was friends with the Bucksbaums and the General Growth. Oh. They built the Empire Mall in Sioux Falls, asked Lloyd to come up there and build apartments next to the Empire Mall. So we took over those 1,700 units. We've probably probably have since then developed around 6,000 or 7,000 units, primarily just in central Iowa since then. Never really planned on probably selling as many as I did. I did not know the cap rates would get as low as they
I don't
were.
think anybody knew.
Nobody did. I mean, it was like, said, we usually don't sell stuff. I don't see cap rates like this either. We sell when there's an opportunity. So, with that got us into the apartment management business. That, of course, got us into developing a lot of apartments. And that's been a good business for us as well.
2008, 9, 10, you bought a ton of townhomes. You bought this large portfolio. Were you buying ground at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
But basically, most of the ground we were buying was buying foreclosure ground, which was unfortunately, I mean, you look at it right across the street from where we already had property. Yeah. So it was a defensive measure as well. I couldn't have somebody else in there undercutting everything I did. But I also, when you go into all these townhome projects, we got them because they were difficult. The product that was there, you really couldn't just replicate what that developer had done because that product had already been, the price point had been decimated. Sure. So you had to come up with a different design, different product, and market that. And we were highly successful doing that.
What do you attribute that to?
Just because of our financial stability and the deals we worked out with the banks, we were able to build product when a lot of people couldn't build product.
Yeah. I'm curious as to the cash position you were in, percentage-wise, relative to the size of the company. Or maybe you have a recommendation for those who are in this business to go, you need to at least have X percent cash on hand for that rainy day.
Well, you got to always have cash. As the rule goes, developers don't go broke because of assets. They go broke because they don't have cash. Right. Okay. And so you always got to, you're always worrying about your cash position. But we're making a lot of cash in the home building business, and doing that, we're making a lot of, managing our commercial portfolio, managing our multifamily portfolio. We have a lot of income streams coming in from a lot of different divisions. Not everybody has that ability.
No, you're right. To go from 75 to 750, to me, it certainly signals that you're in there's revenue streams from multiple facets coming in.
Right. There is. Yes.
Take me through that, 2010, 2015 era. It seems like there was, construction almost stopped in a lot of regards, that 2009, 10, because the resales were less than what you could even build these things for.
Yep.
What types of things talk to me about the commercial side of that? What was taking place in that era?
So for us, we focused more on industrial, okay, and then multifamily. We kept building during that whole time frame.
They were leasing?
Yes. We also did a lot of low-income housing tax credit projects because the money was available. We didn't know anything about that either because, remember, before 2007, we'd never managed an apartment before, okay? And so we did a lot of low-income housing tax credit projects. There were a number of stimulus packages out there that were helping. Even remember, Obama's given, a fair amount of cash to first-time home buyers to buy new homes. And so townhomes qualified for that. We just had a lot of things happening at the same time. We also started our Eden Crest, which is our assisted living. We started that, and we're finishing up our 10th assisted living facility, which is assisted living, memory care, and we added some independent living with a couple of those. So we got into that business as well. So we just had a lot of different projects going on at the same time.
I'm curious on the assisted living side of things. It really is operational.
Yes.
It's not just to build it and comes easy. It's like, this is really challenged.
We started out, we had a great partner who was a great management, company. And that's who we partnered with and went into this thing. And then he sold the company. And the person that bought him didn't have the same attention to detail he did. The operational income started going down. So we did, which some people might say is one of the dumbest things they've ever done, is we took over management of all our assisted living facilities. It is extremely, and then you see firsthand what all the problems are. Okay. And it's taken us a good solid year to get our arms around it and get that turned around.
How have you managed that as coming through inflation? It seems like you got a lot of inputs that go into that world. Yes. Food costs is a large input. I would imagine you've had to
and labor,
seen it firsthand.
Labor. I mean, once again, of our 750 associates, roughly 350 of them are just on the assisted living side because you got people 24/7.
Right.
Okay. So it's not like apartments where, you go home at 5 o'clock at night and have some people on call. No, you've got nursing staff, you got food staff, you got everybody there all the time. Okay. So it's very intensive. And, when labor gets tight, the turnover is absolutely huge, absolutely huge. So you really got to staff up. And if there's anything, we probably didn't staff up enough. You lose the person that you was managing it before who wasn't really doing it well as your guideline. And then you go forward and say, well, there's a reason that they weren't managing it well. They just didn't have enough staff to do it. So we got to beef that up.
We've got a silver tsunami coming. Do you see this line of business growing?
We do. I mean, that's why we got into it. We knew that it was coming.
Sure.
We knew that it was coming. Same thing, why we've gotten into a variety of 55 plus product to diversify our income streams. We started our first 55 plus condo project, really trying to compete with cooperatives. I never quite understood why anybody'd buy a cooperative.
Okay. It sounds like a timeshare pitch.
Yeah. I remember, one of my guys I was golfing with says, I'm buying this unit and, I'm buying it for $150,000. And I'm saying, no, tell me what you're talking about. Well, that's the downstroke on the co-op. Okay. His monthly dues included his mortgage payment. Okay. I'm saying you do understand you're not buying it. You're buying the down payment. And these are sophisticated people and they just didn't quite get it. It sounded too good to be true.
Yeah. Some of that is due to the level of choices that they have available at any given time when they go out there to the marketplace and see, where can I go? I'm getting to that age and we're going to have to, we're going to be faced with a decision sooner or later. So let me get some thought.
And we're seeing more and more interest in that, both in the 55 rental and 55 plus ownership.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Talk to me about during COVID. What was taking place? I know both on the house, on multiple sides of the business.
We didn't really see, we kept working the whole time. So the construction industry is kind of exempt from stay at home. I think our office might have been shut down for 30 days. Okay, that was it. And then everybody's back to work. We are really not in an industry where people can work remote. If you're managing an apartment complex, you got to do it at the apartment complex. If you're building a building, you got to be on site to build the building. There's a few people that can work remote, but not very many. So, we're pretty much running the whole thing, and the market's still doing okay. Right. I mean, it really, there was a little bit of a shock there for a while, but business kept going. People kept buying houses. That didn't really change at all. It's not like they stopped. Interest rates were, as you know, unbelievable, and they stayed that way. Right. And people took advantage of that.
Do you have during that time and even to this day, do you have much exposure in the office world, the office market?
We own a few flex office buildings down at our River Point Business Park, and those are flex, so they could kind of go a variety of different ways. And we have a large medical office building. Other than that, we're at pretty much all our retail, all our office, sold it, invested in multifamily and industrial. And even, and in the meantime, sold a lot of our multifamily that we've developed, and I've sold a huge amount of our industrial that we developed because, the market was just so strong. The cap rates got so low, you couldn't see. You knew it was really, for me, once in a generation that I'm going to see those kind of cap rates.
Talk to me about CBRE a little.
So CBRE, for our company at Hubbell Realty Company, we purchased Iowa Realty. We owned Iowa Realty Commercial. Okay, we purchased, I think it's from Welch was the name of the company. We combined the two, and then we had the opportunity to become an affiliate with CBRE. And so in 1996, we were affiliate with CBRE, and we were all that way for until 3 years ago or something like that. I'd always kid those guys. I said, you've been telling me for 10 to 15 years that you're gonna buy our operation, okay? And every year somebody'd come in, and a year later that guy'd be gone, and somebody else would come in and say, hey, we're gonna buy your operation, and we'd meet with them twice and never see him again. So when you say you're really gonna do it this time, I don't believe you.
Sure.
Okay, but they did it. We really didn't have an alternative. We were the largest by far commercial brokerage operation, 30 some commercial brokers. They wanted to be one of the top. And CBRE said, if you don't sell to us, we're just going to come in and compete with you, and we'll steal all your people anyway. So, wasn't probably the most friendly negotiation, but we worked something out. And so we have a non-compete. We can't get into the commercial brokerage operation. We still are pretty close with all those people, but CBRE is doing their own thing.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
How did that help support the development side of Hubbell? Or was it not that material? Really, as a standalone business?
Standalone business. I mean, 2 or 3 brokers specialized in finding land for us. And it probably even maybe hurt us a little bit because, JLL people are like, well, you're just going to use CBRE anyway. Now, of course, it's wide open. JLL people are taking our guys out for lunch saying, hey, we got property for you to look at, or we got buildings that you might want to acquire as well. Yeah. So it really opened it up for us.
Do you think it took, or why do you think it took so long for CBRE, corporate to actually execute on the transaction?
We're small. Look how big they are. And here's Des Moines, Iowa, and we're making good money for them. I'll be honest with you. I would guess that we've paid them more money than they're making right now every year. Okay. From an economic standpoint, this didn't make any sense for them. But the lawyers said, you don't want to have affiliates. We're big. We have a liability out there with an affiliate office. And they basically got rid of, we're one of the last affiliates. I think Omaha, they purchased 3-4 years before they purchased us.
Where do you see us, Greater Des Moines area, going in population? And as a result of that, as the continued growth, what do you think shows up here? How do things look? How do things look different that maybe do not exist today in this market?
Well, I think you're going to see our population continue to grow, but because we've grown quite a bit, that percentage of growth is going to keep decreasing. I mean, we get all this, hey, we're the fastest growing, metro. Well, it's easier to do when you're small. Okay. You kind of look at the metro, and Waukees getting a lot of like, hey, they're the fastest growing. Well, Ankeny's still growing by more people than Waukee, but their base is a lot higher. Right. So, that's how you look at it. Right. Des Moines is going to keep growing. And of course, because it's Iowa, we're going to create, the population is going to continue to age. Okay. More so in Iowa than it is in a lot of other places, because we're just not bringing in the younger population with the numbers that we really need.
What do you think that takes?
Well, things that I've looked at, I've gotten very involved in the Icon water trails. And I got involved with it really because I knew we need more in our community to attract young people. Yeah. I think the fact that we have a vibrant downtown, we have a region that just has a lot of activities going on, that quality of life really attracts that younger generation, and we got jobs. Okay. As I tell everybody has jobs right now. So you got to have more than just jobs to compete. That's long. We're long up past that. Right. Okay. You got to have that amenities that's going to say, hey, listen, I want to raise a family here, or I just want to live here, because, they can't all go to Chicago and then come back, but that's kind of what they do. Chicago, Denver, Dallas. And then we try to get them to come back to raise their family. Yeah. We'd prefer they didn't leave in the first place.
You're exactly right about
that. Okay. So Icon Water Trails is one thing I've been involved in to try to accomplish that.
This year, 2025, what are you most excited about?
Well, for me, this is my swan song year. So I'm most excited to groom Kyle Gamble. Unlike a lot of people that have a succession plan, I've had a succession plan for 20 years. Yeah. Kyle was part of it along with a lot of other people. And then I finally decided on him, and I'm giving him, all the support I can give him to really take over and just get out of his way. It's hard for guys like the CEOs with personalities to say, hey, listen, I'm back here. Yeah. You run the show. If you need me, I'm here. If you don't need me, I'm still here, but I'm not going to get in your way.
So date on the calendar?
My last day would be March 2026.
Well, fantastic. And I understand, you are in the middle or maybe towards the end of a book.
Yes. Decided when I started with Hubbell Realty Company, Jim Hubbell sat down with me for lunch and said, you're going to have to come up with what your vision of the company is. and you're going to have to be able to articulate that vision. And I don't know if I asked you that question, Neil, and you're in the company, and what your response would be. Okay, it's not like Jim had this whole vision thing laid out, but as he said, we're talking about you, not me. And so I sat down and wrote down the things that I thought made our company great, and things that I knew that we had to improve upon to make our company greater. And it's called 8 to Great. I'll just go through them real quickly. Number one, it was associates who have the passion to be your best. 2, entrepreneurialism, having that entrepreneurial spirit, because that's why I was still there. Otherwise, I'd be working for somebody else building high rises someplace else. 3rd, I'm an engineer, so I call it an engineering mindset of process improvement. Okay, I knew that we are going to have to continually get better at what we're doing. 4th was our mission statement, which is really the key with that, is to enhance the quality of life in our communities by being the leading provider of real estate solutions today and tomorrow, by building on our strong foundation of integrity and our commitment to associates, clients, and communities, which is why we got in. We could do a whole session on the Hubbell Extreme builds and where all that came from. Then accuracy and speed, measure twice, got once. Do that, you have Hubbell raving fans, customer service, both internal, external customer service. One I always tell about teamwork. I probably wasn't a great teamwork guy, developer, sports I did in high school as a wrestler. So, you're on a team, but it's really just you and one other person out there. And then the last one, which is the only one, you've been saying this for 20 some years, that these associates remember, is you really got to have fun. Okay. That's my 8 to Great. It's been our philosophy to grow our company. The book is called Think Bigger. And I can talk to you about that story with a sister Stella, Neil, and Anawim. But Think Bigger, Lead Better, 8 to Great Principles for Organizational Success. And the book should come out in November of this year.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm certain it's a labor of love to be able to put that down and get it all out of your head and then down to a spot where it can be easily read. I want to go back. 750 employees. I don't think the average person who interacts with Hubbell in wherever they do, if you bought a house from you guys, you're a builder, whatever it may be, I don't think they fully appreciate or understand all the verticals you guys are in. So maybe just talk to me about the verticals that exist today, and maybe where are all these 750 people? What do you do?
Well, we've talked about a few of them already, some of the basics. Yeah. So I'll do the ones we haven't talked about. We started, there's a real need for rural housing, and the state has really pushed us on workforce housing. So we created a company called Origin Homes. They're out there building spec homes in communities that if you've been in Iowa long enough, you've heard of, but Manning, Iowa, Gowrie, Knoxville, Jefferson, Conrad. Okay. I don't know that I can remember them all. We do spec homes there, but we go, our goal is to build, we do a lot of built to orders, on your lot built to orders throughout the all 99 counties. That's our goal. We started a custom home building division because Hubbell Homes is really a production home builder. Bark Signature Homes is our custom home building division. Because we're a large land developer, somebody's got to manage those HOAs. So we manage roughly around 5,000 to 6,000 doors. And we not only manage them here, we manage them in Omaha as well with that division. Because we've taken on so many more projects, we've had to create a couple other divisions to support it. One, a capital formation team that raises the equity to do those projects. The asset management team that really has to manage those assets to maximize their performance so we can enhance an investor performance. We have a small brokerage operation that just sells lots, primarily to home builders, a few to individual friendly home builders, called New Home Site Realty. We have a division that supports our land development, Site Inspections LC, because you got all these EPA regulations with doing that. Then, of course, we have a home building division in Omaha called the Home Company. We didn't name it. We purchased it and kept the name. They started out with 750 homes. They'll probably do somewhere between 150 and 175 homes this year. We have a land development company, which, because it's called the Home Company, then we call it the Land Company. Once again, develops similar to Des Moines, roughly 250 to 500 lots a year. I probably forgot a few, divisions. Our apartment management team is Indigo Living, and they manage over 10,000 apartment units in 3 states. And they are 55% of them are third party. not even our product.
Okay.
So they do a huge amount of third-party management. Then we have our development team. We're building a large industrial project in Omaha. We have a large apartment community being built in Omaha, as well as several in the Des Moines area. So, we do our own construction. So Hubbell Construction Services builds not only for Hubbell, but also for a variety of third parties. And so that's an independent income stream as well.
It's incredible how many different lines there are. And
there's 18 of them. That's why I always forget what they all are.
Well, the benefit of that, multiple benefits, but the revenue stream is diverse. And so no matter what's coming at you, you've got other avenues where one may be pulling, the others are pushing.
Yes, and that's important for us.
It seems like going back, some of that, one of the largest pivots, maybe it was a mind shift for you guys, is development, going back to the 90s, to control the land, to control ultimately one's own destiny. And then it got you down the path of all these houses that probably led to other avenues too.
Right.
You've got a podcast. Dig it. Tell me about that.
Yes. So I challenged Claire Bremer to really come up with a podcast and get her message out. One of our consultants had started a company doing podcasts, and he said, "You got to have a podcast." I says, "Well, I don't want to get in that rat race of, how many listeners." And he saes, "Well, you do it just as equally as important is you're trying to build a strong relationship with your guests. Okay. So, you get people on there to do it. And it's been a huge success for us. Claire does a great job and interviews all these people, and the team members get really excited about being on this podcast. I actually have only been on one podcast, and I was only on for like 5 minutes to do. They don't let me do much talking anymore. So they've got all that handled. Everybody wants to be the star, and that's fine with me.
Well, it's good. Well, I appreciate you giving us more than 5 here today. Are you ready for the final 3 questions?
Sure. Go right ahead.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Well, probably, the title of my book, Think Bigger, and then probably my 20-year-old self, think a lot bigger. Okay. And it's amazing how you think you're thinking big until you really get in and get challenged to think even bigger. You can do a lot more. I never had a goal to say I want to be president of a real estate development company. That was never a lot of financial goals, but nothing that said I was going to run an organization or be able to create an organization like
2 books that changed your life.
Probably the first one, if you've ever heard of and boomers know this author, his name is Og Mandino, and it's called The Greatest Salesman.
Okay.
My mother gave me that book. She says, you might not like it, has a little bit of a religious overtone. That author in that book had a lot to do with it. And then number 2, Jim Collins's Good to Great. My principles are 8 to Great. That's a reflection back on that book is very popular at the time, and that was one of them I went with.
If you were cast away on an island for a year, you'd only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month. What 3 things must you know to know how your business is running?
Okay, sales, and probably not in particular order, because most people say, number 1, you want to know how much cash do I have? Okay, so cash is 1. Sales and leasing. That's Kyle Gamble's expertise. That was why I brought him up, because our company really so heavily dependent on sales and leasing. Not just sales. We have a lot of apartments to lease, personal properties to lease, and a lot of homes to sell, a lot of condos to sell, a lot of variety of anything to sell. Sales and leasing, cash, general financial, balance sheet, but primarily that.
Rick, I've asked lots of questions. This has been fantastic. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
Yeah, the one story that you probably are going to have to, now we don't have time to do it, you're going to have to buy the book to find out is who in the hell challenged him to think a lot bigger than he ever thought he could be challenged.
We'll have you back on when the book's out. For people that want to find you, follow you, connect with you, learn more about Hubbell, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, just www.hubbellrealty.com. I think our team's done a pretty good job of keeping the information out there. Sometimes I question whether it's a good idea to put my cell phone number out there. Anybody can call me, but it probably is still out there in my email address, because I still get a lot of weird calls at times.
Well, the link for Hubbell, not your cell phone, will be below in the show notes for everybody. And Rick, I appreciate you being here.
Okay. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.